Michigan State will bounce back. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with instant analysis of the Spartans' win over Wake Forest at the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. Final score 27-21. An entertaining ball game. Actually, one of the bowl games that I wanted to see, probably in my top 5 to 10 of 41 bowl games, believe it or not, Wake Forest and Michigan State. I just kind of liked this matchup, and it turned out to be a very, very good ball game. Like, comment, share the videos out on social media. Subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you're coming across us for the first time or have not watched much of what we do, we talk college football for the hardcore, the smart fan, each and every day. Not talking about just during the season. 24/7, 365 all year. All right, let's look at this game. Cade Carney, if you watch ACC football, you're familiar with him. He's gained over 2,300 yards rushing at Wake Forest. This was his final game. It seems like he's been carrying the ball at Wake forever. He had a 1,000-yard season a few years back, 15 carries for 64 yards, and some tough runs in the first half as Wake Forest put up 21 against Sparty in the first half. First drive of the game, Jamie Newman up top to Kendall Hinton, the former quarterback who burned the secondary, got the safety to bite, went deep, beautifully thrown ball over the shoulder, touchdown, and a 7-0 lead, Wake. Brian Lewerke's mobile. He's a baller. He's a tough kid. He came from Arizona, and he turned out to be a very capable quarterback for Michigan State. Not elite, not great, but capable when healthy. He had his worst season a couple years ago when he had a bum shoulder to deal with. Elijah Collins got loose a couple times in the first drive for Michigan State. They kick a field goal at 7-3. Matt Panusic. This is an interesting quality to Michigan State football. They tend to be very family-oriented in regards to generations of Michigan State football players being connected, whether that be fathers and sons and grandsons or brothers. Clemson, Michigan State, and Nebraska, according to the graphic on ESPN during the game, they are tied with 5 brother combinations. This is kind of hard to believe. This must be all time. This can't be on the current roster. 5 brother combinations having played for those 3 schools. And this one in this bowl game hooked up for a touchdown. Matt Panusic, pick 6 off the batted ball from his brother Joe, who batted the ball at the line, and Michigan State took it in 10-7. Panusic gave it the home run call, too. We saw much of that at Yankee Stadium, and we've seen that ever since the bowl game has been played there. Most recently, the Big Ten against the ACC, and, of course, the kids are going to want to give it a baseball feel when they make a big play, and it's good stuff. Love it. So Michigan State leads at 10-7. Michigan State has faltered at the wide receiver position in recent years due to injuries, poor play. This year it's been poor play, really from all the receivers, tight end, running backs, 40 dropped passes. We saw one on a key third down by Julian Barnett early in the game in which they could have extended a drive. Barnett drops the ball. Michigan State has dropped 40-plus passes this year. That's third worst in the nation. Kendall Hinton, again, converted quarterback who once pushed John Wolford for the starting job and actually beat him out a few times as they battled back and forth for the Wake Forest starting job at the point at which Dave Clawson was turning this program around. Kendall Hinton, his future, of course, as a wide receiver, special teams guy, possibly in the NFL, had a 36-yard return in which he bounced off of all sorts of Spartans, and it was actually Michigan State punter Jake Hartenberger who brought him down, or that would have been a punt return to the house. Donovan Green for Wake Forest, and Wake converted and executed, I should say, the back shoulder play in this game time after time after time after time. This time, Donovan Green, not just a back shoulder, but a back shoulder dive as the ball was not perfectly placed for the touchdown, and Wake went up in this one 14-10. Trenton Gillison played a prominent role in this game for Michigan State. He caught one over the top. Wake was not prepared for the play in which the tight end goes right down the seam, catches a 64-yarder from Brian Lewerke. Lewerke completes his longest pass of his career as a Spartan on his final game as a senior, 64 yards to Gillison. That led to a touchdown to make it 17-14, a touchdown that Lewerke scored on the ground. Wake Forest runs basically the same play, at least the same route with its tight end. Jake Freudenthal went right down the seam from the H-back position, right down the seam. Michigan State bit as Newman looked to the other side of the field. Freudenthal right down the seam. That one went 44 yards for a touchdown, perfectly placed on that one, and we've got a 21-17 Wake Forest lead. But the Demon Deacons would not score another point in this ball game, even though they had 3 tackles for loss on the next series, including a sack by Carlos Bashan, who leads the ACC with 11 sacks. Dave Clawson had made the statement this week during the media roundup to promote the bowl game that he does not expect to get the best freshmen in the ACC at Wake Forest. What he has to do is get them in and develop them. He says it doesn't matter if we've got the best freshmen because we hardly play any freshmen compared to the other teams that bring in the 4- and 5-star recruits, i.e. Clemson, of course, Florida State to a lesser extent. But these same players need to be better than the players that they play against in the ACC when they're juniors and seniors, and that's what has been at the core of Dave Clawson's resurgence of the Wake Forest program, and he's an exceptional coach. He's one of the 10 to 15 best coaches in the country. I would have said the same and did say the same for many years about Mark D'Antonio, not necessarily so sure that he's on top of his game right now. This was well, we will see what Michigan State has in store for us in 2020, but it's certainly been a down few years for Spartans Nation, and we will talk about that in just a second. Second half, down by 1. Lewerke, more plays to Gillison on a 3rd and long conversion. Lewerke kept it on a 4th and 1, made the right read, kept the football, didn't give it to the running back as he read the defensive end. Then Elijah Collins, who was bottled up at that point for 12 carries and 27 yards, cut loose for 31 yards against the grain. He made the linebacker and the safety miss in the hole, and Michigan State was off and running for a touchdown on the next play when Lewerke went off the bootleg, something he has done time and time again throughout his career in East Lansing. The touchdown pass to Cody White. You've got your scoring right there, 27-21 Michigan State, and we were still in the third quarter. Michigan State had multiple chances to take a 2-score lead, but they failed. Up 27-21, they had a reverse pass to the wide receiver, but that should have been completed as it fooled the Wake Forest defense, but the ball not connected on by Cody White. Lewerke threw an interception to Ryan Smedna on a play in which the ball could have been caught, but it was also not a well-thrown ball by Lewerke behind the receiver and high, tipped up in the air. Smedna picked it off as Michigan State had driven inside the Wake Forest 20, so they could have gone up 2 scores there. Next time, Michigan State had the ball right down the field again as Michigan State's offense looked better than basically that they've looked against a quality opponent in forever. Right back down the field inside the Demon Deacon 10-yard line. And then Gillison given the ball down the middle on the shovel pass, fumbles as Jaquez Williams both forced the fumble and recovered the fumble to keep Wake alive. Not a 2-score game. Sparty had 2 chances to make it 2 scores, but they could not. Actually, there would be a third chance in which Michigan State could have put this game away. The next time Michigan State gets the ball, they're inside their own 5. This is when Brian Lewerke most likely won the game. Up 6, inside their own 5, he completed back-to-back 3rd and long passes in which he really threaded the needle on the out routes. Have to throw it a long distance all the way across the field, and he did it back-to-back plays, back-to-back 3rd down plays, and then the 3rd consecutive long throw he made was to Trey Mosley. When the Wake cornerback went for the pick, Mosley high-pointed the football, turned around, and took it down to the Wake Forest 33-yard line. Michigan State, once again for a 3rd consecutive drive, moved it inside the Wake 10. Matt Conklin, who's had a spotty career for Michigan State, once an all-Big Ten place kicker, missed the chip shot. So we still had a 1-score game at 27-21. Again, Michigan State 3 consecutive drives. They take it inside the Wake Forest red zone. They miss opportunities based on turnovers twice, fumble, interception, and then also the missed field goal. So we still have a 27-21 game. Wake has it for one more shot. 3 minutes left, but they go 3 and out. Jack Freudenthal, their tight end who caught the big 44-yard touchdown pass, dropped a play on first down that most likely would have been an 8 or 9-yard gain to put them in great place. And then Kenny Willekes came off the end for Michigan State and strip sacked the quarterback, Newman. The play was under review as Kendall Hinton picked it up for a big loss. He picked up the football, and it's a good thing he did for Wake Forest temporarily, because it would have been a fumble recovery for Michigan State because it was ruled a fumble, but Hinton lost yardage on the recovery, put Wake in a poor shape, even though Hinton caught an 8 or 9-yard pass. 4th and 14, Sam Hartman had to come into the game because Newman was knocked out by the Willekes hit on the strip sack. So Newman's out of the game. Sam Hartman, who's played a lot of football for Wake Forest, not a true backup here, really good quarterback, gunned it downfield a couple times. Actually, on the final play of the game, 4th and 14, had to scramble all over the place, did everything he possibly could to find somebody open, whipped it down the field to no avail, and Sparty hangs on 27-21. Brian Lewerke named the game MVP, finished with 47 touchdown passes in his career, as Michigan State, one of the intriguing programs in college football from this standpoint. I don't know that another program has taken the tumble that Michigan State has in recent years. Mark D'Antonio lifted this program from mediocrity, finishing basically 500 forever. Look up the Michigan State records in the 1980s and 90s and 2000s, except for a couple blips at 9-2, 10-2, basically a 500 program. Mark D'Antonio made it an elite program. Elite for a short period of time between 2010 and 2015. For those 6 seasons, Michigan State was on top of the world. Won Big Ten championships, won Rose Bowls, Cotton Bowls, went to the college football playoff, had a 36-5 run. Going into this game, after a 36-5 run, finishing in the top 5 in the nation, top 10 in the nation, all those years, Michigan State at 26-24 over a 50-game span up until this win. So Michigan State's at the crossroads. We'll see if this bowl victory catapults them into a healthier climate into 2020, because the rails, the deal was coming off the rails for much of 2019 after a decent start, losing to the likes of Illinois after leading by 25 points. That was kind of the microcosm of the season for Michigan State, but they do win the bowl game to finish at 7-6. For Wake Forest, the trajectory still up. The ceiling, though, limited, of course. Wake finishes at 8-5. We will, of course, throughout the offseason, will set you up for 2020 for both Michigan State and Wake Forest. Personnel gains through recruiting and personnel losses through graduation. So more to come on that. For Michigan State, their big games in the non-conference coming up this next season at BYU in September, and also a date against Miami. For Wake Forest, a couple interesting affairs against Appalachian State and against Notre Dame in Charlotte for Wake, and the ACC contract with would-be member Notre Dame. My thoughts on Michigan State in particular, also Wake Forest. Again, as you follow us through the offseason, we will track these two teams and set you up for 2020. Would love to hear what you have to say about Wake and Michigan State in the future as the Big Ten finally gets on the field in bowl season and goes to 1-0 as what we would think would be the 7th or 8th best team in the Big Ten, Michigan State. Certainly not as good as Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, probably in the same league as Illinois, even though they lost that game head-to-head. So about the 8th or 9th best team in the Big Ten, defeats the, at one point, considered the 2nd best team in the ACC, probably 3rd or 4th. Let's hear what you've got to say now, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.